Okay, moving right along, our next speaker is Rachel Klima, who's going to be talking about a topic that we've also heard about a couple times today, the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium. So take it away.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you so much for inviting me to join you. I'm happy to be able to share this in a little bit more detail. Next slide, please. So as you heard earlier from Jim Ryder, the Lunar Surface Innovation Consortium is a part of this overarching LSII strategy, which is something stood up by the Space Technology Mission Directorate to really take a look overall at the different programs and types of investments and the different stakeholders from academia to industry to nonprofits and to government, and really drill down into the technologies that most need investment and how to work with partners to advance these technologies, whether they're items that are best funded by grants, if they're technologies that are better served to be developed through partnerships where the companies will be able to monetize those in the future, and whatnot. So if you want to go to the next slide, I'll dig right into the LSIC aspect of that, please. So APL, where I am at, has been asked to kind of work as a systems integrator for the LSII initiative. And what this means is that we are doing some kind of overarching work with it, including something that John Gruner mentioned in the chat earlier about helping to kind of work with JSC and get information on things like simulants out to the community. We're also kind of looking for holes where maybe industry doesn't realize how much work has been done on the science side and some of the tools that are out there. One of the things I'll mention in a few slides is we, with Goddard, had a TRN workshop recently, and some of the fantastic work that people have done over the last decades to map the moon and to do modeling, illumination modeling, positioning modeling, the industry does not necessarily know that that exists and that that's available to them. So we're trying to kind of make those connections. If you want to go ahead to the next slide. I packed a lot of slides in here. So I'm the director of LSIC, but we also work with an executive committee to try to make sure that we're integrating with the players that have already been working on this for decades, including having representatives from the different mission directorates, from Survey, from League, small companies, large companies, venture capitalists, and nonprofits, and then also academia. So that we have those voices as we set our direction each year and to evaluate whether we're providing value back to the community. Now, we stood this up or kind of introduced it to the community in February of last year, and it was just officially funded about a month ago, basically. So now we are entering our kind of full action mode rather than our community building mode. Next slide, please. So the objective of LSIC is really to serve as this conduit of information between the community and NASA, and to understand what the community needs to better get their technology funded, to get their ideas communicated to NASA efficiently, and to advance the technology readiness to be able to integrate it into some of these initiatives that you've heard about throughout the day. And it's centered around the 6 focus areas of the LSII initiative. And what we do is we have annual, semi-annual meetings. So twice a year, we all get together and talk about the consortium on the whole. But then on a monthly basis, we meet with all the focus groups and members of the community who are interested and discuss the kind of the tall poles for these different technologies. And we're working on, whether we need more specific roadmaps for these different areas that consider the broader architecture. So not just what NASA needs, but what commercial industry might need for this to become something that they feel like is worth investing in and building this commerce side that LSII would like to also foster. So if you want to go to the next slide before I end up running out of time, please. So what are we doing to try to enable this? Like I said, we have these monthly telecons with the the different focus areas. We're trying to build up collaboration space on a wiki that if you sign up for LSIC, you can get access to, where we have a lot of the community discussions. Again, this is technology focused, but scientists that are interested have, we welcome everyone to come along and basically provide their background and input to this conversation. So we're trying to provide content that anyone can access anytime that they'd like to. So it's not just a flash in the pan meeting, but this ongoing discussion about the technologies that need to be developed in order to make this sustained presence a reality. Let's see if you can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to step through the different focus areas. You've seen this already. We've got lots of participants, which is fantastic. Next slide, please. You can go to the next one because I'm paranoid of running out of time. Okay, so I'm going to step through the different focus groups. On that last slide, we do a monthly newsletter to kind of feature some of our different members. So if you were to join, you could get that. But in the focus areas, we've got the In Situ Resource Utilization Focus Group, which meets monthly. They have spun off several subgroups to talk about specific resources, including water, oxygen, and helium-3. And one of the first things that they did was host this supply and demand workshop. If you want to go to the next slide. The point of that was basically to get people in the same room, those that might be using the resources that would be extracted, as well as those that might be supplying, and really drill down into how much is going to be needed and to understand this market. Next slide, please. The dust mitigation focus group also had a workshop recently. So in addition to the ongoing telecons, we're having these kind of featured workshops a couple times a year for the different focus groups. If you want to go ahead to the next slide, I have there. So the dust mitigation workshop was a little bit earlier this year. We had a large number of attendees, and what they did is they identified high priority challenges. And we're going to be working to basically tackle some of these over the next year and the years following, and fill out some of these gaps with the team. Next slide, please. The Extreme Access Focus Group is a very kind of large, big tent focus area, because that encompasses things like AI, telecom, navigation. And so they had, on the very next slide, we had the TRN workshop recently that I mentioned with Goddard. This was really useful, especially for industry, to see what kind of tools are out there. And the fact that, we as scientists, we do all these things and make the data publicly available. And not everyone knows how to access those data. And even some of the code and algorithms that have been developed, which can really help save a lot of money and minimize this spending the resources over and over again to address the same problems. Next slide, please. Extreme environments is another big tent one that has a lot of interest to scientists. It's got a little bit bigger academia wedge than the others. They are working right now through defining some of the different environments. If you're interested in getting involved in that one, Ben Greenhagen is leading it. Go ahead to the next slide. I'm going to make it a minute and a half. Surface power is another of the focus areas. So our focus in the fall meeting was to talk about power and power infrastructure, but they are also planning a power beaming workshop. So if you're interested in that, please visit our website and join up and get in touch with Wes or John Scott. Next slide, please. It's turning into like a flash advertisement. Finally, excavation and construction focus group is one of our other areas that Atonu and there's some typo on there, and Mark Hilberger is the point of contact at NASA. Go ahead to the next one. Yes, okay. So finally, we're having our semi-annual meeting in a couple of weeks. If anyone is interested in joining and hearing about this in a non-flash format. But really the point of this is to engage the community in these technology discussions. So we welcome you to join us and dive into these conversations with the community as we try to try to make our way back to the moon. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that great talk and for your diligence to stay on time. I know it's tough with only 10 minutes. Appreciate it.